Deadlines are good. Last week, Tim said as much in his recap of the Smoke Long Quarterly workshop. Those daily quotas created small milestones that kept stoking his creative fire and ultimately produced some usable material. He's already published at least one story from the workshop. The process of developing new ideas is different for everyone. I get flashes of inspiration all the time for story ideas, and I capture them on a notes app in my phone. But that's just inspiration. Setting deadlines, maybe a daily word count target, or maybe a dedicated block of time to write whatever comes to me, these mean I am progressing towards a goal, not just piling up leaves in the yard. So deadlines that push you closer to a goal are super helpful. Let's spend a little time talking about the psychology of deadlines, why they work, and how you can use them. Deadlines are a way to trick your brain into focusing on doing the work. How often have you procrastinated on an important thing, waiting until the last possible moment to begin, only to race through and crush the assignment? In college, I routinely waited until the night before, or the morning of, to write a research paper, even if I had completed the research like weeks earlier. I couldn't bring myself to begin until the need was high. A sense of purpose or urgency was essential to getting me motivated to even start. Once I started, it was easy to stay dialed in because there was risk that I wouldn't complete it. I literally had no time to lose. One explanation for this could be the scarcity principle. For whatever reason, scarcity creates urgency. Limited time to complete the task triggers a kind of motivating fear that acts like supercharged coffee. It triggers a desperation that I can use like fuel. You've surely experienced what I have, glancing nervously at the clock, typing feverishly, working that mental math of, if this section takes this long, then I can do section 2 in this amount of time, section 3 in this amount of time, and the constraint of so little time forces me to be more productive. So if we pick a day on the calendar or we limit ourselves to only a certain writing time per day, we tend to dial in and focus more on the work. Without a deadline, we might pick at the work like a child pokes at a salad, but the deadline can help us dive right in and try to get it done quickly with purpose. For this to succeed, though, the deadline needs to be achievable. There is a sweet spot, a midpoint between way too easy and virtually impossible. In education, that concept is called the zone of proximal development, that level of learning that is tough for me to achieve, but doable with enough support and work. This is why we don't try to leap from counting on our fingers directly into multivariable calculus. Instead, we progress through pre-algebra, algebra 1, geometry, trigonometry, with each new level a little tougher than the last, like scaffolding to scale the side of a building. Setting too aggressive of a deadline actually has the opposite effect, causing us to lose focus, where the task crumbles under its own weight. Just look at any of the NaNoWriMo novels I tried to write. I could barely make it to 20,000 words before puttering out of gas. It wasn't that I didn't try. It wasn't that I didn't want to complete the draft. I stopped because the hill was too steep to climb. At that point, the task was not within my zone of proximal development. I had to take a step back, set deadlines with more achievable goals, smaller word counts, and focused blocks of time that did not cut into my day job or ruin my sleep. So how can we use deadlines to help us push our writing forward? First, let's agree together that we will use deadlines to drive progress in our fiction. Next, let's set reasonable goals, ones that we can accomplish but have to really work at to achieve. Lastly, let's communicate that deadline with our peer group, the folks who can hold us accountable, the people who will actually notice if we achieve our goals or come up short on a deadline. Psychology suggests that when we share the deadline with others, it increases our attention to the effort. Maybe it is a social pressure, a fear of embarrassment, or instilling accountability into the work. But speaking the deadline into reality raises the stakes and helps us take it seriously, which amplifies the motivating fear that we talked about earlier, which then gives us the needed kick in the pants to get cracking. And once we have started, the first of many hard parts is over. See you next week. Start writing.